Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Friday the 22nd of September 2023. I'm Adam Lang. Every afternoon we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about, and it's story number 1. The S&P ASX 200 closed up 0.1% to 7,069 points after recovering from some steep morning losses. The week ends 2.9% lower. This follows a big week of international news and renewed expectations that interest rates across the world will remain higher for longer than previously expected to get inflation back under control. 3-year bond yields have reached their highest levels in 10 weeks, while the 10-year bond yields are at a decade high. In terms of companies, the best on the bourse today was Costa Group, up 6.6%, and the worst was IDP Education, down 5.9%. In terms of sectors, it was a mixed day. Utilities and energy did best. Healthcare, real estate and IT had the most severe losses. The Nasdaq fell 2% overnight, so it's not a huge shock that there's been some pain for the local tech sector, which tends to be especially sensitive to interest rate changes, both real and expected. And speaking of international tech stocks, Apple shares fell 0.9% overnight, but the new iPhones have seen a massive turnout in Sydney's George Street at the flagship Apple store, where hundreds of Australians queued today to be among the first in the world to get their hands on the latest model, the iPhone 15. Story number 2. Big corporate news. Rupert Murdoch's decision to step down as chairman at Fox Corporate and executive chairman at News Corp and hand over the reins to his son Lachlan has attracted attention across the world. Billionaire Anthony Pratt, who is executive chairman of cardboard box manufacturer Visy and Pratt Corporation, paid tribute to Murdoch. He called him the greatest Australian businessman in the world. Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull said Murdoch had created an angertainment ecosystem, leaving America more divided than at any time since the Civil War. He said Murdoch left a hell of a legacy. Turnbull believes that without Murdoch, we would not have seen Brexit or a Trump presidency and later insurrection. And his comments were noted by Senator Rex Patrick, who said dynasties fade over time, but a media ownership inquiry is long overdue. Regardless of individual perspectives on the mogul himself, the question is whether big changes may be ahead for the Murdoch empire under Lachlan, or if Rupert will be calling the shots behind the scenes, as some media outlets are indicating. Story number 3. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has launched federal court proceedings against Energy Australia. The competition watchdog alleges that when the electricity retailer notified customers about upcoming price changes, it breached both the Electricity Retail Code and Australian consumer law. These rules require retailers to tell customers about prices in a simple, standardised way to make it easier for them to compare. This is particularly an issue when electricity prices are rising so quickly. The ACCC reckons that Energy Australia made it harder for people to compare their plan with offers from competitors by failing to include the lowest possible price when sending notices of changes to their customers, and that is mandatory. The watchdog found out about the alleged omission following a regular compliance check. It's now looking deeper into other retailers' notifications to customers and their advertised offers. Energy Australia has about 1 million residential customers and 88,000 small businesses on its books. Those are big numbers, and this marks the first time the ACCC has launched litigation over an alleged breach of the Electricity Retail Code. Story number 4, corporate deals have fallen to their lowest level since COVID hit in 2020. That's according to Refinitiv's 2023 Investment Banking Review, which tallied up activities in the first 9 months of this year compared to the same period for previous years. And they found a total of $2.3 billion worth of mergers and acquisitions activity this year. That's down 43% compared to 2022, and advisory fees fell 62% over the year. UBS was still the top investment bank from a fees perspective, but it was hit 45%. That's 45% down. ANZ was second ranked, followed by Commonwealth Bank, Westpac and Barclays. The question now is whether the lack of activity is bottoming out or if we'll continue to see mergers and acquisitions activity slump. And story number 5, a deal has been struck between Chevron and the Offshore Alliance, representing Maritime Union of Australia and the Australian Workers Union. Workers have been striking at 3 LNG plants, representing 7% of global supply, in a move that has resulted in major volatility in gas prices. The two sides faced mediation with the Fair Work Commission throughout this week to come to a deal that struck a balance between improved conditions and wages for workers without being too onerous on the business. Chevron has now accepted recommendations around overtime pay, training and travel. This has been accepted by the Alliance, whose workers were gearing up to lose more pay as their industrial action stepped up. The WA government previously said it would intervene if domestic production was hit. That's it for the afternoon report for Friday the 22nd of September 2023. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X and Facebook. Join us tomorrow morning for the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Adam Lang. Enjoy your evening.